The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. At length, I felt I had no choice but to answer. I knew it was dangerous, since everything I said was probably being recorded, but I couldn't help it. Of course, I told the Abra that he was wrong about your miracles being potions and sleight of hand. It was just resistance on my part. I knew there was no changing his mind.
"What is true makes no difference," he countered. "When the story goes out, as long as it is plausible enough, the people's imaginations will fill in the rest. What matters is the story's effects, and right now, you need to be thinking about which story you want affecting your future."
Gold noticed Jinichi trembling slightly, though his voice did not quaver. He fixed the image of the secret potion back in my mind, and assured me that my fingerprints were all over it. Then, he gave me an ultimatum. Neither option was good, but the first one was far worse. He said that I could stick to my story of taking a bribe from Team Rocket. I would be found guilty of illegal possession, and since I apparently loved the Rocket so much, I could join their imprisoned ranks. It wouldn't matter how light my jail sentence was, as long as they had an opportunity to get at me. Option 2, I was your accomplice, or more accurately, your fall guy. I would carry the potion stash around for you, so that nobody would catch you with it when they tried to see through your miracle healing. In this scenario, I'm not accepting illegal contraband from a known criminal organization. I'm only helping in an elaborate show, possibly without even knowing that what I'm doing is wrong. Given all the supernatural things you've done, it would answer a lot of questions. The judge and jury would appreciate my coming forward and let me off with a slap on the wrist. Jinichi's mouth was a thin line, his face a mask of sour disdain. He put it more eloquently than I'm doing it. He kept my thoughts focused on what would happen to me, not you, and blinded me to the holes in the logic. You know, like when I wore the Rocket uniform into Goldenrod City and everyone saw me. Makes no sense if I'm not in debt to Team Rocket, right? It's clear to me now, but it wasn't back then. He paused, biting his lip. I'm ashamed to say that a small part of me was tempted to embrace the lie and save myself. I had visions of grandeur when I started this journey, but there in that room, all I could picture in my future was myself in a cage with Rocket thugs closing in.
"Save yourself,"
the Abra had said, and that was the last thing I heard from it. Well, kept hearing from it. Save yourself, save yourself, save yourself. On and on it went. It was maddening. Jinichi fell silent. After a pregnant pause, Gold heard his father speak by his side. His tone was laced with sympathy and rage in equal measure. "I'm sorry. How they treated you was inhumane. Not all torturers use racks and thumbscrews." Gold quickly chimed in his agreement. "I see now why you hesitated to tell that. I'm sorry, too, for putting you back through it." Jinichi's lips trembled. He put a finger knuckle to his mouth and took several deep breaths to calm himself. "It gets easier each time," he said, managing a steady voice. "I finally got it down to a neat chronological sequence. I'm leaving out the long stretches in between, where minutes felt like years, and I eventually tried to break the glass with a bolted chair. God, but I'm jealous of you, Gold. I know that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but I would have much rather lived your story." Gold chose not to comment on that. He remembered how he'd felt when the elites had first kidnapped Jinichi and Marina away. The despair had almost crushed him, and Silver had swooped in soon after to finish the job. Still, everything had turned around and gotten brighter when Spirit arrived. "Let's get to the good part," he encouraged, trying to press Jinichi forward. "Tell us about the Phoenix." Jinichi's posture straightened, and Gold could see light returning to his eyes. But before he could respond, "Who was it?" Everyone looked at the guard, who had hitherto been just a piece of the setting. He had clearly been enwrapped with the story Jinichi told, but at the sudden stares of astonishment and annoyance in his direction, he looked mortified. I mean, he stuttered, his face burning with a bright crimson. "I was just wondering who spoke through that Abra. It's been bothering me this whole time, and you sounded like you were about to move past it." Jinichi seemed to lose track of his thinking for a couple of beats. "Yeah, I'm not sure. What do you think, Mr. Gold?" At that, Gold watched the amusement flicker in his father's eyes. His tone, however, remained serious. "Was it not Koga? He's the one who took you, wasn't he?" He glanced down at his son for confirmation. "I don't know any of the elites that well," hedged Gold. "Least of all Koga. Bruno's out of the question. But it might have been Will. It wasn't Abra, and he's their psychic guy. Then again, maybe it was Karen." He narrowed his eyes. "She fits the bill better. Dark Mind loves the mind games. Plus, I think I finally know why she brought that potion to Leader Chuck's house last night." He gripped his hands together hard. "I think she was trying to get me to touch it. She was wearing gloves to prevent her own fingerprints from sticking." Another silence elapsed, full of pondering. "It could have been a Team Rocket agent too," offered Jinichi. "You said they're working together with the League. It might even have been 2 or more people at once." "There's no longer a difference between the League and Team Rocket as far as I'm concerned," said Gold hotly. "They're both guilty of kidnapping, attempted murder, and deception." He felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see his father watching him with concern. "Be careful whom you condemn in your anger," he said with gentle rebuke. "The Pokemon League as a whole spans many regions beyond just Johto. Our region may have acted badly, but do not let it poison your impression of everyone else. The others have a certain amount of independence, freedom to run League policy their own way." He smiled. "If you'd been born in Hoenn, for instance, you might never have felt as you do now. The way they self-govern over there, it's the trainers with virtuous hearts who are honored, not those who try to win at all costs." Gold looked at his father doubtfully, and the latter held his gaze. "Be careful," he emphasized a second time. "You said that Silver's impression of humanity in his youth left him bitter to all as an adult. Do not let that happen to you with the League. Like all sports, Pokemon training entails risk of certain evils, injuries, power tripping. Especially power tripping. But the sport itself is not an evil thing, nor the League organization, whose original purpose was to keep it civil." It was quite a statement from someone who had been such an ardent supporter of the Johto League and so recently gotten his hopes betrayed. Gold hesitated, then nodded. "I'll try to keep that in mind, Dad."